The Philadelphia 76ers officially announced that Joel Embiid has been shut down for the season, but the work is not done for this Sixers team. Daryl Morey got back into action, adding a Band-Aid fit to this team to add to the roster, and his work cannot be over as far as what is done to the rest of the Sixers team. I want to break down the best outlook from here, the new name that we do need to know, and why I think that the Sixers need to take an even more proactive step to increase their odds of getting that top 6 draft pick. So let's dive right into things, and of course, this being on the heels of Joel Embiid being shut down. Before I get fully deeper into it, do want to remind you guys, make sure you are smashing that subscribe button. That 71.6% of you guys as of now are not subscribed to the channel. So if you are enjoying what we're doing here on Sixers Digest, it is a brutal season and need as many of you to help get through it together. So make sure you're hitting that subscribe button if you have not already. Now, to get into the topic of today, this comes on the heels of Joel Embiid being officially shut down for the season. We kind of knew this was lingering for a couple weeks now. Really, the whole season, there has not been full clarity about the injury status. Dropped my full thoughts on the previous video, but to address things, we already have one move being made by Daryl Morey, and that is that the Sixers have signed former Lakers first-round pick Jalen Hood-Schifino to a two-way contract. So not the biggest needle-moving deal here. I will say about Hood-Schifino, I liked him coming out of Indiana in college. He hasn't really shown much at the NBA level. A lot more of his action has been in the G League, but he was a part of that Luka Doncic trade, which sort of has made his future uncertain. I do think stylistically he's a little different than any of the options the Sixers have at a big man position. More of a lob threat, more of a shot blocking option, a more above the rim type of player than either Andre Drummond, and Dembona can do it to an extent, but Hood-Schifino I do think is slightly different. Very smart basketball player too. So worth taking a chance on a talent, but really the future of this season is not about winning basketball games. This is about maximizing the lottery odds. That is unfortunately where we're at for this Philadelphia 76ers. And to get to those steps, there are two proactive steps that I do think that the Sixers need to take. That is continuing the shutdown process and getting rid of Paul George and Tyrese Maxey for the remainder of the season. And this is not just for the lottery odds. This is me about protecting them from the injuries they're dealing with as well, because we know that this has been happening. And we address those directly here. Going to start off with Paul George. We got this report shortly before the All-Star break from Shams Charania saying, quote, "I'm told it's to the point where he has gotten injections to play and compete over the last 4 or 5 games. That's something players do come playoff time, not necessarily in the regular season." I also know we got the announcement that Paul George had put down the podcast microphone. That's how seriously he was taking the remainder of this season. Well, Paul, you are free to record as many podcasts as you want to, my friend, because we do not need you on this basketball court anymore. And as far as this conversation for Paul George specifically here, like it, love it, hate it, indifferent. The bottom line is he was agreed to a 4-year contract worth over $200 million. We're in year 1 of that. So he is still here for at least, unless you find a way to trade him, which at this point I feel is unlikely. I don't think you're getting any sort of value back for that. And by the way, when I mention these trade conversations, this is not me saying I'm morally against the idea that if you get a fair offer that you can flip Paul George for something that helps this Sixers team, you can sign me up for that. No doubt about it. Just me looking at it with kind of a dose of reality here of who around the league is signing up to take that deal on their books at the price that we do know is the current point and give things to get it and make it happen. So that's kind of what I mean when I say that. But for Paul George specifically, with that being the case, there is no point in my mind in adding more wear and tear to his body at age 35 plus, at whatever amount of basketball that he has left in his legs, to use that up in what is already a lost season. And when you think about the injuries that George has dealt with this year, it has been from start to finish. We're talking about 2 bone bruises in that left knee that started back in preseason. We're talking about a groin issue that he's battled, and of course this pinky issue that seems to continue to plague him. It does look like the wrap or whatever they have on it has gone down in size a little bit, that has decreased, so hopefully that makes his basketball ability is better. I will say that last matchup against the Knicks really felt like the hardest I've seen Paul George play like all season, which is frustrating on a variety of levels there, but nonetheless, that is the steps that I would take for Daryl Morey. And the next guy that I think is important to do is, of course, Tyrese Maxey. Now, Maxey for a little while now has complained about some hand issues. Let's not forget his last matchup before the All-Star break, and of course, he did miss that final game, so it was technically the second to last game. The worst NBA game I'd ever seen from him. 2 points in the entirety of the game. I don't know if I've ever seen that from Tyrese Maxey, really. It had been over a year since that was the case for Tyrese specifically. He just has not looked like himself for a large portion of the season, and now he's kind of complaining about this hand issue. We got this update from Nick Nurse as of Friday here. That shout out to Zach Chavalella of Philly Sports Network. He tweets, Nick Nurse on if Maxey's lingering finger injury will last the season. Quote, no, I don't think so. I think he'll get better as he goes, as long as he can keep it out of getting hit a little bit, repeatedly for a while, but it's affecting him a little bit. He's probably mentioned to you, he's working on some things today to figure out how to release the ball a little differently, a little better, all those kind of things. And well, I think he's figuring out some stuff. I hate everything about this. For starters, if we're talking about tweaking his shot to prevent injuries from getting worse, there's a problem right there. And again, this is not this Sixers team bracing up for the battle of the playoffs. This is not we need all-in push. They are 20-38. They are 18 games below 500. Let's pull the plug. There is no need to do more damage to a guy who has an incredibly bright career ahead of him. And for Maxey specifically, he's probably the guy that I feel the worst for about the way this season has gone off the rails. That he, by every definition, by every qualification, has handled himself with nothing but class since he's got to Philadelphia, has been the model for what you want in an athlete, what you want in a face of your city, and he's kind of stuck in this same mess. So for Maxey specifically, I kind of just want to get him out of this, get his mind out of this. I think there's bad habits that can be developed for continuing for the remainder of the season, and whatever that hand injury is should be priority number one. So if you pull Paul George, Tyrese Maxey, and Joel Embiid, I guess maybe what's preventing them is the concern that this team could end up winning more games if you just do throw out some of the young, hungry guys that are making things happen out here. But the bottom line is, for me specifically, I do think that those precautions should be taken. I don't see the short-term or long-term benefit of continuing to put wear and tear on those guys' bodies based on the state of how the season has gone. Now, with all that being said, I do want to make a couple more notes about this roster that I did mention already, the Jalen Hood-Schifino signing, which, of course, we did discuss on a two-way deal. In order for that to be happening here, it was David Roddy that was officially waived. A short-lived legacy of David Roddy here in Philadelphia. Two really brief short stints. And, of course, he was traded on draft night when the Sixers did officially select him during his draft year now, and now brought back for a very brief stint. The only memory that I really have of David Roddy, there's two actually. The crowd chanting Roddy in a game which the Sixers were just getting absolutely destroyed by the Chicago Bulls. A 30-point, 40-point game where they're chanting during the very end, so shout out to him for that moment. And then him airballing a three-pointer that hit a Dembona in the head. Yeah, if that does not sum up this Sixers season, I don't know what else will. But the bottom line is, for me, the very clear, I guess, only outlook, the best way to build out this roster from here, you got to find a way to get a draft pick. That means losing every game you possibly can moving forward. That means resting guys, allowing other teams to pass you. We're huge Raptors fans. We're huge Pelicans fans. We're huge Nets fans for the remainder of the year. So those guys' odds are slightly lower than the Sixers, but currently they're looking at just under a 50% chance of getting their pick. I think they can get to at least a 63% chance of keeping it, and then we're going to ask for a little bit of luck with the ping pong ball. So I still cannot believe this is the actual outcome that we are for the season, but those are absolutely the next steps that I would take. I've seen enough of Paul George for the season. I've seen enough of Tyrese Maxey for the season, and I'm ready to put everything off till next year and begin rebuilding with hopefully a little bit of Cooper Flagg in the back pocket to aid it. And even if it's not Cooper, sign me up for Ace Bailey. Sign me up for Dylan Harper. Sign me up for whoever you want to. There's a ton of good talent in these. We'll be diving deeper into that as we get closer, but the bottom line is you got to take the steps to go and get it at this point. So appreciate each and one of you guys for tuning into this video here. Once again, make sure you are smashing that subscribe button if you have not already. 28.4% of you guys watching these videos, that is all that is subscribed currently. We got to get these numbers up, so appreciate each one of you guys once again. I'll be back talking to you next time right here on Sixers Digest. Peace.